All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to this online masterclass about the 7 Ps of profit. Now, this is going to be a fairly quick run through. I'll be sharing with you a whole heap of models and tools that I use with my clients. And then at the end, we can have an open Q&A for those that have questions. So now I have muted everyone, but you can open up your chat window and you can post questions through that. I'll be monitoring that. So just feel free anytime that you have any questions, just pop that into your chat window. I'll answer those, and I can also unmute you if we need to have further discussion. So let's get started. So first up, just like to welcome everyone. I know that you are all very busy, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to attend today. Now, we did have quite a few registered, but obviously we only have a handful. I think we've got about 8 or 10 on this call, so that's great. Now, for those that aren't on the call today, this is all being recorded, so you'll be able to watch this later. And feel free, whether you are able to ask questions live today or whether you have questions when you watch the recording, just shoot those across to me. All right, so just a quick intro to myself before we get into the 7 Ps of profit and the models and tools that I want to share with you. Now, I've been running my own business coaching and consulting firm for over 20 years. As you can see here, I'm an accountant by training. I don't do any accounting work now with clients, but it's fantastic to have that background and that base, because a lot of what I do is look at the numbers with my clients. It really helps me to understand what's going on. It helps me to teach them about the numbers and the value of those. So that's a bit about my background. Now, I don't generally focus on sales and marketing with clients. Most of my clients are established, growing businesses, and they need help with more of those management disciplines rather than sales and marketing. So things like planning, productivity, team performance, profit improvement, really putting the foundations in place to tighten things up, but then also have those foundations so we can grow the business and scale the business going forwards. And as you can see here, as I mentioned, I mainly work with established, busy businesses who want to put in place those foundations. They've got growth goals. They know they can either improve the profitability of their current business, but they know they need to put the right things in place so they can continue to grow profitably, effectively, and so they can scale and without burning themselves out. I suppose it's about growing the business and having the freedom to enjoy the rewards from business as well. And I know business is not easy. It's definitely it can be a tough game and a lonely game. So what I do with a lot of my clients is really provide that support, be like a pseudo business partner for them. They can share their frustrations, share their goals, be a sounding board, keep them on track. Okay, so that's a bit about myself. Now, all of that is a bit left brain, I suppose, if you know those terminologies. What I'd like to do is just share a bit about myself personally through some photos. I have 3 kids. A couple of them are grown up now in uni. One's still in school. We like to do things together. This is us doing the Raw Challenge adventure race together. We love to travel. My wife and I love to travel as well. This was us in New Zealand recently. And I just like to stay fit. I'm pretty active. I like to stay fit, like to get involved in things. So that's a bit about my personal life. But I've been doing this for over 20 years. I've been running these sorts of workshops, whether it's live or whether it's online. Now, more and more things are online, and I think it's great that people can just tune in and attend from wherever they are. So thanks again for being on the call today. And it's just great to be able to work with clients, help them get results, acknowledge their achievements. And as I said, a lot of stuff is online now, and a lot of the work I do with clients is online, but I love to get them together to connect face to face as well in more social settings. So that's generally how I work with them these days. Uh, and just a bit more about why I do what I do. Now, I've been doing this for over 20 years. I'm still passionate about it. I still have plenty of energy for it. And it's because I love, obviously, seeing the results that clients get in their business, how it brings people together when a business is doing well. Um, I love getting people together to share ideas, connect with each other. A lot of times, I might share some tools, some strategies with my clients, but it's not until they hear other clients implementing it that it actually twigs for them and they say, well, I better, Anil's been telling me about all of this, I better go ahead and do it myself. So that's why I think it's really important for me to connect my clients together, facilitate discussions. And as I said before, it's not just talking about business, but it's just connecting socially as well. A lot of my clients end up doing business together. They catch up, outside of my involvement with them. It's really bringing people together. That's a big part of my why. But then on a personal level, it's also great to see how that business success translates into personal success, personal achievements for my clients. This is a client of mine, husband and wife team, Nick and Lauren. I've been working with them for about 7 or 8 years. They run a landscape construction business, and they've got a young family. They went from really starting out, not knowing what to do, now very successful, multiple investment properties, freedom to travel with their kids. They went away in their caravan for 3 months and let their team run the business. So it's great to see, those sorts of results, and that's really what drives me. Another client of mine, Phil, who runs a import business, importing high-end signage equipment, installing it, servicing it, and so on. He's now expanded to Melbourne from Sydney. Uh, Once again, young family. This was us. We were both traveling independently without planning it. We were both traveling in Japan, me with my family, him with his daughter, and we caught up for a beer in Tokyo, which was great. But yeah, once again, great to see the results he's getting and the freedom that he now has from working crazy hours, no holidays to now having that freedom. So so that's a bit about myself and why I do what I do and why I continue to do what I do. But that's probably enough for me. Let's get into the actual workshop. And this is what I want to cover today. So I want to cover off now. I'm going to cover off obviously the 7 P's of profit, which is what this workshop and this webinar is all about. But before that, I want to really introduce my business building model. It's a fantastic framework for you to think about your business, um, think about the different parts of the business, and maybe where you should be focusing. But also, there's this great checklist I use with my clients that aligns with that model. So I want to take you through that. Then, obviously, I'm going to cover off the 7 P's of profit. I'll explain how that fits into my business building model. I'll share with you a framework to work out how to implement these 7 P's in your business, what the order in which you should implement those are as well. Then I want to share with you some growth tools that I use with my clients, um, partly to show you uh, how I work with clients and how I work with businesses, but also for you to be able to take that and run with those sorts of ideas. Now, obviously, the reason I'm running this webinar is because I'm passionate about what I do. I want to help people. I'd love to bring any of you on as clients. Now, I'm not a pushy sales guy. I only bring on people that I genuinely feel that I can help. And a lot of that is understanding the situation you're in, the financial situation, understanding how I can add value, and making sure that where you want to take the business makes sense financially as well. Okay, so regardless of what you invest in a business, whether it's people, whether it's systems, whether it's consultants or coaches, you need to get a positive return. All right, so I want to make sure that, I always make sure that I know that that is likely, not just possible, but likely and highly likely before I work with someone. Okay, so So that's why I'm running this today. I will be inviting you to a program that I run called the Profit Collective, and I'll show you how my tools fit into that program as well. Okay. Now I want to cover off all of this uh, in about 45 minutes. That was the promo that I would put out there. So by about 1:15, and then open it up to Q&A for those that want to stay on, ask more questions about the information that I'm sharing and how it might apply to your business. Any questions that you have about business in general, happy to talk about that. Okay, so let's get into it. So the first thing I wanted to check is that you all have the workbook. Now I'm just going to flick over to my workbook. So here it is up on the screen. Now you should have received this by email earlier today. So I'm going to work through this workbook. Feel free to print it out and work through it with me, and we're going to complete this together. And I'll be relating my presentation back to this. Okay. All right. So first thing I want to share with you is my business building model. And I will flick over to my workbook again and just complete this with you. All right. So I always tell people there are three parts to every business, and there are three columns in this table, and each of these column headings has one of those parts. All right, so the first part is get the work in, so get the work in the door. The second part is get the work done productively and effectively. And the last part is what I call get paid and get organized. It's really about making sure the back office is working. Now, within each of these columns, I break down my model into three other areas. So within the get the work in column, it's all about strategy. So what that means is understanding what's happening in the market, what the trends are, who your competitors are, where you're placed in the market, and how you stand out. Now, also as part of this part of the model, I look at my clients' financial models, their business models, make sure that as we grow the business, that those financials stack up and the margins and profitability of the business and the way it's structured stacks up. So that's all part of strategy. The next box is marketing. So that's really all about generating leads, generating inquiries, and then that flows onto the third box, which is all about sales. And sales' job is to take those inquiries and convert them into customers, but also to look after your existing customers, manage their accounts, make sure they're happy, make sure that they are coming back and buying and sticking with the business. All right. Now, just because I'm going through this from left to right, it doesn't mean that these are the steps we take or the order in which we take them. I'm just going to share all of this with you first, and then we'll talk about what order we do things in. So the second column, getting the work done. The first box there is delivery. So just making sure the basics are getting done. So customers are getting what they expect. There's no bottlenecks, no roadblocks. You can minimize errors. So it's just getting the basics right. The next column is team, and team is about attracting the right people, inducting them in your business properly, setting the right expectations, helping them grow, helping them develop so they can help run the business for you. And the last area in this column is systems. So systems is really at a later stage when we really focus on putting in place highly documented systems, flowcharts, processes, making sure there's an operations manual that the team can follow, but there's also good automation, good IT systems that help streamline the business. Okay, and as you probably know, for any business to do well and to grow, you need to have great people and great systems. Okay, so that's that second column. And the last column, getting paid, getting organized. The first box here is direction. So it's about understanding all of these things you need to be doing in the business, but then putting that into a plan that you can follow. And I'll share with you later on in this webinar my one-page planning tool. So that's a tool that we use to capture all this information, but then have a step-by-step approach to follow. And then once you're clear on that, it means you can then share that with your team as well. Okay. Another key area is time. I think we'd all love to have another 5 or 10 hours in our week. So I work on this area with my clients quite extensively. It's no point having all these things that you know you need to do and can do if you don't have the time to do it. So it's really about understanding how you can free up time, delegate more effectively, where you should be spending your time, and just being more productive. And lastly, numbers. Now, I think in my intro that I'm an accountant by training. So really understanding the numbers is critical. And when I look at my clients, the ones that do particularly well are the ones that really understand their numbers, or they've got another senior person in the team that really understands the numbers. And it's not just the financials, but it's also the key numbers, the KPIs that drive the business, so we can track the right activity, because if the right activity is being done, then the results will follow. Okay, so that's a very quick overview of my business building model. Let me know if that makes sense. If you've got any questions, just pop it into your chat box. So that's the first thing. The next thing I want to share with you is the checklist. It's a checklist that aligns with that model. And once again, I'll flick over to here. Now, there's no point just knowing that you've got these 9 areas to improve in a business if you don't know what you can do to improve them. And that's where this checklist comes in. So within each of these 9 areas, I've got tools, I've got strategies that I implement with my clients. So you can see here, for example, in this team area, I think if you've got a team, it's always an area that needs focus. You can see there's there's a list of things that we can implement. Now, some of these will make sense to you, others won't, because some of these are tools that I've developed or that I use that you may not, it may not make sense to you. But these are all things that I educate my clients about and help them implement. And the reason I'm going through the model, explaining the model to you, is because from experience, I know that those businesses that are ticking off these 9 areas have a far more profitable business, a business that's far easier to run, more enjoyable, and just, it's and more valuable as well at the end of the day. Because some people want to set up their businesses to sell. So the more of these you have ticked off, the more valuable and more saleable the business is as well. Okay. So any questions there? Now, we can't go through this checklist in detail. It's really just giving you an understanding of how I do things and how you can think about the business yourself. So you need to have a think about, well, what are the areas that are a priority for you? You can't do all of this at once. You might decide that, well, actually, I'll explain to you the priorities and the steps, but just very quickly, let me just do that quickly, just by ruling here. This is the areas that I call the foundational areas. So making sure you understand your strategy, you're delivering consistently, you understand how to free up your time, what the numbers are telling you, making sure you understand what parts of the business are profitable, what's not. There's no point ramping things up with sales and marketing if you don't have the foundations right. Otherwise, it'll just become unmanageable, or you might just grow your revenue and not really be making any more money. Okay. All right. So I've covered off the model and the checklist. So the next thing I want to do is obviously get into the core of the of what I was promoting and communicating about this webinar, and that's the 7 P's of profit. So let's just talk about those. All right. So once again, this is in the workbook, and you can write it down in the workbook, or you can just write it down on a piece of paper. So the first P is price, but alongside that is positioning. I'll explain this. So I always tell people that the profit is in the price. Now, we're not like Coles or Bunnings or any of these big guys who can rely on volume and low margins. Small businesses need to make good money on a small volume. All right. So, really the only way to do that is being able to price properly, pricing higher than you, well, just yeah, not being the cheapest, making sure you're pricing well, pricing properly, because then you're going to make better margins and more profit. Now, the issue becomes if we just charge higher price than, say, other people, but you haven't explained why people should be paying more. You haven't really positioned your business properly. You haven't explained all of the other things you do well. Being able to sell that message, that's the positioning part. Okay, so if I go back to my business model, sorry, my checklist, this all sits in this strategy area. If you, and this is what I'm going to relate it back to, the 7 Ps to this model. Reviewing prices, understanding the key points of difference, you really being clear on how you can educate your market, your customers about why they should buy from you other than price. Okay, so that's the first one. The second P is what I call performance. And that's really all about this area here, the numbers. So you need to understand how different parts of the business are fitting together, how that flows into your financials, into your numbers, and understanding what parts of the business are performing better than others. So it could be what people, it could be which customers, which markets, which products, which services. Different parts of the business are going to be contributing differently to your profitability. So you really need to understand that. Okay, so that's performance. The third part, or the third P, is productivity. Okay, and there's two parts to that. So that's your team's or business profitability, productivity, but also your own productivity. Okay, so time is our most valuable asset. Making sure that your team is using their time properly, that they're organized, they're not running around, wasting time, not making errors. So it's all about that part of it. But then also you managing your time properly, you being productive, you being, just getting things done that you should be getting done. All right. So that's the third P. The fourth is planning. Now, why is this a part of profit? It's about understanding where you're headed. It's about, if once we get the pricing, the performance, the margins all right, it is about growing the business. And to do that, you need to plan. You need to plan for growth. You need to understand and think forward about what systems you need to put in place, what team members, what processes. All of these it's all part of planning. And I'll share with you my one-page planning tool in a minute. 5 is pipeline. So that's pretty straightforward. It's all about marketing to generate leads and sales. You fill up the pipeline, fill up the funnel with marketing, and then sales then converts those and manages those people in the pipeline. 6th is people, which is pretty straightforward. I sort of covered that in my model already. And same with this last one, which is processes. Okay. So if I go back to the checklist, performance I mentioned, productivity obviously sits in here with time, but it's also things like, having a good job scheduling system, weekly production meetings. So those sorts of things to make sure that your team is organized. Planning. Planning's all about this area here, direction, but more specifically, this regular 90-day planning process, and I'll share that with you in a minute. Um, Pipeline was pretty straightforward. That's obviously marketing and sales, and people and processes, again, team and systems. Okay, so that's how you can see that the 7 P's of profit that I'm covering aligns with my business building model. Okay, now, and this is not rocket science. There's plenty of other people, plenty of other coaches and consultants that will have their own model. What I'm covering here is not anything new. It's really just a way to think about it, a way for you to have a framework, have a model that you can refer back to grow your business and know what needs attention. It gives you some focus, it gives you some ideas, and when I go through my planning worksheet, it'll show you how to implement those as well. All right, so back to the pres. So that's the 7 P's of profit. Now what I want to do is show you how to implement these. Okay, and for that I have this triangle model that I will now take you through, and I'll overlay the 7 P's onto this triangle. Now, before I do that, I just want to rule a line here and break this triangle into the bottom two segments and the top two segments. And I'll call these down here the foundations, and up here is where we build on those foundations. Okay, so this first segment I call the profit and cash flow part of the triangle. And in terms of which P's fit into this part of the triangle, we have pricing, because I've already said that how important that is to having good profit. Performance, it's really understanding what parts of your business are contributing, what the detailed numbers tell us. And that's obviously key to understanding the profitability of the business, but also the other part of performance is cash flow management. So to have great cash flow, you need to start with having good profits. You can't have good cash flow unless you've got good profits. But then in addition to profits, cash flow needs to be, to maximize cash flow, you need to manage your debtors, manage your suppliers, manage your inventory, all of those things, manage your loan repayments. There's all sorts of a whole wide area that sort of fits into performance and knowing the numbers. And the last P that I want to cover here is productivity, but more so your staff's productivity. And that's where things like the job planning, weekly planning, meetings, job scheduling systems, those sorts of things to make sure your team's organized. Okay, so that's the first part of the triangle. The second part I call get organized. And this is where we focus on productivity again, but more so your productivity. Okay. We also focus on planning and some basic processes. Okay. So the first part of the triangle is really understanding the business, making sure you're pricing properly, understand the numbers, and just get some of those basic things in place. Then it's about taking the next step about getting more organized, your own productivity, your own time management, putting in place a proper plan. So this first part here is probably, the first 1 or 2 months, well, let's say the first month when I'm working with clients. Okay. And then getting organized is then the next, say, 2 to 3 months. Okay. So that's, just giving you a bit of an idea. It might take longer with some clients. It depends on the business. Now, the next segment of the triangle is a bit clearer. So you can see there's a lot in this foundational area. This next part is really about the pipeline. Okay, so you've got to be careful. It depends on every business. Some businesses need to grow that pipeline more quickly than others. But as I said, I generally work with businesses that are already, pretty busy. They've got work coming in. So that's why I focus on these foundations. It's making sure that the margins are right, the organization's right, that things are working smoothly before we then start ramping things up with marketing and sales. And then the last part I call freedom, and that's obviously where people and processes, but these are the full-on processes, where we actually do develop an operations manual. Okay. And then so you can see there's a lot of work down the bottom, and then once that's in place, you can start scaling up. And you do, as the business grows, we need to come back and make sure that things are still working in the foundational areas, but then we keep growing and then eventually put in place the right team, the right systems to free you up so that you can take more time off, or you can start doing other things, other business ventures. Really depends on what's important to you. Okay, so really that's the 7 Ps and the implementation process. Any questions there? Just feel free to pop that into your chat window. I am having a look at that, so I think we're just getting. I haven't had any questions, but I've had people that have said, "Yep, good, makes sense." They've seen similar sort of models, but it's great to. I've got some good feedback already saying that it's nice and clear, which is good. Okay, so the next thing I want to share with you are some of these business growth tools that I use with my clients. So once again, I've got 5 key tools that I want to share with you, and I'll list them down. As I list them down, I'll also flick over to my screen, and I'll actually show you the tools that I use. And it's obviously a way for me to explain how I work with clients and all of the tools that they've got access to and that I help them implement. But even if we don't work together, you can take those tools, or at least the awareness of those, and think about how you can work with your bookkeeper, work with your accountant, work with others to put these sorts of things in place. Okay, so the first thing I'll share is my strategic, what I call my strategic insights questionnaire. And I'll just flick over to that. So before, we can really put a plan in place and understand what the strategies are that the business needs to adopt, because it's not a cookie cutter approach. Even though I do have a checklist, I've got a model, I've got a bit of a framework. Every business is different. Every business needs a slightly different approach. It's got to be tailored to suit the business. So this tool here helps me understand that. So clients fill this out. It's things for you to think about as well. I'll go through it quickly. What the big picture view is of the business, what your personal goals are across different time frames. So when clients fill this out, it's great for them to reflect themselves, to get a bit clearer themselves, so that when we sit down and discuss it, we can go through something, something meaningful. Where they want to see their business in 3 to 5 years, 12 months, a SWOT analysis, which you're probably aware of. It's a very important tool, very simple tool. Bit of a self-assessment, what they consider their strengths are, what are some areas for improvement. Obviously, if you're thinking about this yourself, you really need to be honest with yourself about what's what are the skills that you need to develop and improve on? Because at the end of the day, it all comes from you. You know, things flow from the top. So if you can improve the way you either deal with people, your skills, it's just going to flow through the whole business. Then some general things around, what the business does, who the customers are, who the competitors are, who the people are in the business, who's filling different roles within the business. So it's really understanding all of that. Okay, so that's really what that tool is all about. The second tool is all about financial modeling. So I want to share two tools with you. So I always look at all my clients' financials when we get together. So that's their Xero or MYOB reports. But the other things I do is I do a break-even calculation. So break-even means, what is the revenue that you need to generate either annually or monthly to cover your costs? But then it's also understanding, well, what is the revenue you need to target and achieve to hit certain profit targets as well. Okay, so that's one of the models that I use. And the other model is a this is one example of it. I have other ones for different businesses, which might be more of a monthly forecast or an annual forecast. So we can see what the numbers look like as they grow. This one here is for a trades business. You can see here who's in the business, what their hourly rates are, how many billable hours they do each week, therefore what's their monthly and annual revenue, their costs, what the overall profit is. And then for this client, we looked at different scenarios. So if he increased his rates, what would the impact be on the bottom line? And this was after salary increases as well that we built in. If you got a part-time admin person, you got an extra tech, got an office. So all of these different scenarios we ran so we could work out what is the best next step for him. Okay. So that's some financial modeling tools for you to think about. The third is what I call my skills development matrix. Once again, just to show you that quickly, it's very simple. It's a questionnaire that clients fill out. They rate themselves across different areas, success principles, organizational skills, email management, financial management, marketing, sales, and so on. And then based on that, and I'll show you I've got a client portal, and one of the sections of it is this classroom where there's all this training for them. Sorry, it's a bit slow. So let me go back. Oh no, that's right. So there's different training here on planning, knowing your numbers, marketing. Now, even though I said I don't focus on sales and marketing, I don't run campaigns for my clients, but I do help them with more, strategic thinking around marketing. I've obviously been doing this for a long time. It's important for business owners to understand some basic marketing concepts so that they can better manage their marketing agency or their sales team. Otherwise, you're just flying blind. So I do have some basic training around marketing and sales, systemizing your business, team management, and then I've got other, a whole range of tools and templates, more in-depth training I have for them, and so on. So that's what I use this skills development matrix for, is really help identify what training they need, what's the next thing for them. The next tool, which is probably important for you, is my one-page plan. And I've mentioned this a few times. So once again, here is a blank version. So all of my clients have this, whether they're one-on-one clients or part of my Profit Collective, which is a group program. There's this big picture view. Now, I don't get clients to complete this part of it initially because it can take some time to develop that sort of thinking around vision and purpose and values. but definitely where they want to be in 3 years, what revenue, what profit, what things they want to achieve. Then we bring that back to 12 months, uh, and then we bring that back to a 90-day plan. And so all of my clients have a 90-day plan. I encourage you to go through a similar process yourself. Every 90 days, review your long-term goals, update those, but then put a new plan in place for this 90 days. So all the projects and goals you have for the next 90 days, who on your team is responsible for that, and then what are the steps you need to take each month to achieve those goals. Okay. So, and then from there, I get my clients into a habit of looking at this. So let's say this is May. Every week in May, as May progresses, at the start of the week, have a look at the plan. What is one small part of that you want to get done this week? In addition to obviously all the other things on your to-do list. And I know we're all busy. So that's the one-page plan. The last thing I want to share with you is a tool I use to track how my clients are progressing against the checklist. Okay. So once again, I'll just share this. Now, this is actually a live document. It's got all my clients on here, and they can all see each other's, but they don't know who they are. So I've replaced their client name with a code. So what I've done is basically taken the checklist items and put them into a different format. And you can see here, it doesn't mean that you have to tick off everything in the checklist. That's just not reasonable. The checklist is really just a guide because some of the items may not be relevant to you. So really it's a guide, and then based on that, I will shade in green whether or not they've completed that part of the model. Okay, so strategy, delivery, direction, and so on. And you can see they all go across the page here. So it's a great way for them to keep an eye on how they're progressing. And you can do the same thing. You just need a way to know that you're putting the things in place to develop your business, improve your business. And I know everyone's busy in business, and you might be thinking, well, where am I going to find time to do all this? But it's not, it's just doing a couple of things each quarter. Like it's just breaking it down and chipping it away at it each quarter. And you'll be amazed how much you progress and how much your business develops after, say, 12 months, 2 years, because this is a long-term, it's being in the game long term. So yes, that's the last thing I want to share with you is really that checklist tracking tool that I use with my clients. And the reason I share that, the reason they can see other clients is so that they can get a bit of inspiration. Some clients don't have much ticked off. They're a bit newer. They may have more complexity in the business, so it's taking a bit longer to do that. But it's good for them to see others that are doing it. And then when I get my clients together to have discussions, they can tap into that knowledge that other clients have as well. Okay, so that's the last thing I wanted to cover off is those business growth tools. As I said before, this is obviously a webinar to help explain what I do, how I work with clients. I'd love to invite you to my Profit Collective program. I won't go through this in too much detail now, but I'm happy to share information with you. Super affordable. It starts at $100 a week. So if you do want more information or to discuss it, just let me know. All right, so that's all I wanted to cover off. I think I've kept it to time. So I just want to open it up now to a general Q&A. So what I might do is I might just stop the recording there for those that are watching the recording. Let me know if you've got any questions. I might stop it there so that we can open up the floor to some general questions, because I know that people tend to have, want to just share a bit more about their business. They may not want that on the recording. So thanks everyone who is watching this. Let me know if you've got any questions, and I will, happy to help you out.